Good morning, everyone. I am sitting here in Victoria Falls and I've got Nick Holme with me today. Nick is across in Mud Island, otherwise known as England. He is a Zimbabwean and he's going to be, I think, moving back to Zimbabwe soon. But the focus of this discussion is about Nick's quest to be the first man to walk around Lake Kariba on both the Zimbabwean and Zambian sides, of course, because without walking on both sides, he wouldn't be able to complete the circuit. Now, I'm sort of making light work of that. 800 kilometers. Nick, are you mad?
Yeah, I think most people have told me that I am mad, including my wife and children. Having said that, they're very keen to come and join me, so I don't quite know how mad they think I am. No, I'm not mad. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and as I'll reveal a bit later, it's good to do it for a reason as well, a good reason.
Absolutely, and so we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail just now. But Nick, I'd like to give our viewers a little bit of an understanding of who you are. And you are Zimbabwean, but you've lived in the UK for a while. Can you give us a little bit, sort of just a brief history of growing up and, what sort of things meant a lot to you? What are your best memories growing up in Zimbabwe, and, what's led you into the man you are today?
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, and thank you for having me on here. I was born 1 week after man first landed on the moon. I sometimes wish I'd been born a couple of weeks earlier so that I could say I was around when man first landed on the moon. But no, I was born and one of 5 children who grew up on a farm in Zimbabwe. The first 10 or 11 years of my life were, as with so many people in the country, was being brought up basically under the cloud of a civil war, but that came to an end. Farming life in Zim was really good. We were very privileged to have a lovely outdoor life, and I think my favorite memories of being on a farm and being outdoors is just getting out into the bush. The number of animals that were around, the birds, the big, the small, the little dung beetles, Chongololos, centipedes, the snakes, the rock hyraxes or dassies as we call them, just everything. It was just it was a time of very pleasant memories, really. Even I was even lucky enough to go to schools that were out really in the countryside. So I've always got country in my blood, and Zimbabwe to me is probably one of the best countries in the world in terms of animal life and bush and just open air, fresh air, and some of the most wonderful people around. So I was basically born and brought up a farmer. I moved across to the UK in 2000, where I was very fortunate to be able to start a family. And I've been doing a lot of work in the past 15 years or so, promoting investment into Africa and in different parts of the continent, and focusing more recently on Zimbabwe and the sort of SADC region. And then when COVID came along, it messed up everyone's lives basically, and I took the opportunity to switch from trying to promote investment into different countries to actually getting involved in something I've always wanted to ever since I was a child and never really had the opportunity to, which is conservation. And I as you know, I have very much enjoyed working with the Zambezia Conservation Alliance in helping to promote and push conservation in our region. And as you alluded to earlier, I'm very much hoping to move back to Zimbabwe at the beginning of next year, because I think it's better to be in situ and actually be able to get my teeth stuck into doing what I really enjoy doing. And then I can talk about the walk a bit later on, but that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic, Nick. Now tell us, yeah, the bulk of people watching these videos from or these broadcasts on the Edge of a World Wonder that I do are Zimbabweans, people interested in the country, Zimbabweans not just living in Zimbabwe, but those in the diaspora as well. And now more recently, we're also starting to get people that aren't from Zimbabwe that are just interested in the country and what's going on and all the positive stories coming out of here. But you mentioned a Chongololo. Now, I know what that is, but I'm not sure every one of the people watching this understands what a Chongololo is. Could you give us your best attempt to explain what that is?
Luke, yes. A Chongololo is an insect that has a hell of a problem every morning putting its shoes on because it's got about 1,000 legs. It's a millipede, effectively. They're everywhere. From memory, they usually come out around about the beginning of the rainy season. And when you touch them, they can grow to what, about 2 or 3 inches long, I suppose. And when you touch them, they tend to curl up very tightly. But they just seem to be everywhere. And Chongololo is just a name I love. It's one of the local dialects for this millipede. They come in 2 colors, black and black. Sorry, Luke, carry on.
So now I was just saying they're not dangerous at all.
No, they're not dangerous at all. And they're not a pest in any way, shape, or form. They're just fascinating little millipedes, actually.
Yeah, and distinguishable from the centipede, which of course is quite dangerous and carries quite a bad sting. So if it's got lots and lots and lots of legs, more than 100, then you should be okay. But if it's got less than that, get a little bit worried.
But don't spend too much time counting them.
Yes. Brilliant, Nick. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the amazing things growing up here in Zimbabwe, as you say. It's the big and the small, and the balance between wildlife and community just makes it so special. But Nick, I'd like to now sort of deep dive a little bit into what you're going to be doing. This 800-kilometer walk around Lake Kariba, I mean, that is some seriously, in parts, quite inhospitable terrain to be walking through. And you are doing this for a cause. It's called W4Life, and it's mainly centered around mental health and mental well-being and the link between that and nature and conservation. First of all, before you go into those links and sort of deeper meaning behind it, why did you choose to walk around Lake Kariba? Is it a memory of Kariba, something that you love, or is it just that no one has ever walked around that, or is it a combination of things?
Luke, I think you've sort of got it there. When I first visited Lake Kariba as a child, I fell in love with it. And every visit to Lake Kariba is very, very special. For those of your viewers who don't know, Lake Kariba was built between 1955 and 59. And at the time, it was the largest hydroelectric and man-made lake in the world. It still is the largest man-made lake in the world, actually, by volume. And it is a very, very magical place. We could go into all the sort of traditions and beliefs surrounding the Nyami Nyami River god and all of that, but there's probably not enough time here. It's a vast lake. It is home to all sorts of fish. It's home to all sorts of bird life. And again, all of the various other reptiles and mammals. And I challenge anyone to go there and not fall in love with it. The sunsets and the sunrises are just magnificent. And when you're either camping out on the lake shore or on a houseboat or anywhere near the lake, and you can hear the fish eagle cry, sending you to sleep, or the noise of hippos grunting, or the splash of a fish in the water, or watching a fish eagle catching its prey, and just listening to the lions roaring in the hills, it's just magical. And as I say, I challenge anyone to go there and not enjoy it. So I've always for many years I've wanted to do this walk, and it's only recently that the opportunity has come up. We first wanted to get going on it a few years ago, and then that didn't work, and then COVID came in the second time we wanted to. So this is our third attempt at doing it. And it falls under an umbrella, as you said. It's called W4Life, but the umbrella itself is W4Life, which involves a walk. It involves my brother actually sailing down in a dhow from Oman to the mouth of the Zambezi River. Another partner of ours, Munya Mojoni, doing a hot air balloon, so that's wind. So we've got W for walk, W for waves, W for wind, and then W for wheels. Another friend, Marcus Malone, doing wheels, all centered in the Zambezi region and focusing on this mental health conservation thing, which I'll go into when you want me to. But it's always been a lifelong ambition, and it seems to make sense to do it and combine it with doing some good and creating this awareness.
Absolutely incredible to think. And Nick, I wasn't aware of the scope of W4Life and the fact that it didn't just involve a walk, that, you know, there's sailing and driving as well. Just very briefly on that, when are those other quests likely to take place? Is it going to be in tandem with your walk or at different stages in the coming years?
So the simple answer to that, Luke, is we're trying to create a movement and an awareness, and we want it to be ongoing and not just a one-hit wonder. So the answer to that is that every couple of years, one of these endurance events will take place. The first one happens to be this walk. The second one will be the sailing the dhow, which is basically following the old trading routes down from Oman to the African continent. And then a couple of years later, the wind, a couple of years later, the cycles. And, you know, there's a lot of other W's out there. So, you know, we're always keen to hear what else, because the aim is to create this awareness and then build it into something much bigger, which involves creating what we're calling TERRA, T-E-R-R-A, training, education, research, rehabilitation, and awareness centers. Some of them large, some of them small, initially set up in Zimbabwe and hopefully Zambia, for rehabilitation of people with mental health problems, for research into various conservation issues as well as mental health issues, for education of our children globally, as well as the local communities, and for training of rangers, training of people who can handle others with mental health problems. So there's a much bigger picture to it than just the walk. The walk is basically the start of the journey.
Nick, why do you think there's such a strong link between mental health and conservation? I mean, I've got an idea, but it would be nice to expand on that a bit more.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I was giving a talk the other day, and someone came up to me afterwards and said, what made you look at this sort of link between mental health and conservation? And we got into it. My brother and I got into this because I've always been very interested in the conservation side. My brother's extremely interested in the mental health side, and we felt we had to create this something that would highlight both of them. And then we gave it a bit more thought, and we realized that actually our happiest times have been when we're out in the bush, when we're with animals, with nature. And digging deeper into that, we realized that there's quite a lot of research now going on globally, whether it's Japan or Canada or here in the UK or anywhere, that actually is showing the benefits of nature to our mental well-being, whether you've got PTSD or whether you're an alcoholic or a drug addict or whether you're suffering from depression. And I think actually that was highlighted quite significantly during lockdowns in COVID, when you know, I'm lucky enough to live out in the country, and so I was able to go for a walk 2 or 3 times a day in the trees with the birds singing. But there were lots of people, and a significant proportion of people in this world are living in towns and cities, probably more than 50%, and they didn't have access to this. And I think it really struck home that they weren't able just to go out and listen to a bird sing or sit under a tree. And you know, there are doctors in Canada, I believe now, who are actually prescribing free entry to Canada's national parks as part of a mental health solution, to instead of relying entirely on drugs and the traditional therapies. So the answer to your question is really, there is actually a massive link between nature and mental health. And I think we're all well aware that we as a human race haven't actually done very well in conserving what we've got of our natural resources. We've been hell-bent on improving our lifestyles, if that's a word, improving in inverted commas. And nature suffered. And we need to not just conserve and preserve what we've got left, but we actually need to go a step further and actually increase the biodiversity that's left in the world. We need to improve and enhance what we've got. And I've got a saying I like using, which is basically, if you nurture nature, then nature will nurture you. And we must always remember that we are part of nature. We don't control it, it controls us. And if anyone thinks differently, then I think they're probably due to start living on another planet, because nature does control us, we don't control it.
Yeah, wonderful words there. And fascinating to hear you talk about people's experiences during COVID and how mental health issues shot up. And I really count myself and my family as some of the lucky ones during COVID, because living here in Victoria Falls through that period, once we got over the fact that there wasn't going to be much money coming in because we were all involved in tourism, we sort of accepted that. And then going into Victoria Falls, for example, and it was as if it was our own garden, it was just us and other residents of town being able to enjoy one of the most incredible wonders of the world. So yeah, entirely. And I believe there were other experiences around the world where people in India were seeing the Himalayas properly for the first time because of pollution levels going down, and the Venice canals cleared up. And I wasn't there to witness it, so I didn't see it, but I believe these were some of the stories. So yeah, I think COVID taught us all a lesson, and it's I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. Now, Nick, I'd like to talk a little bit about the logistics of the walk. And something like that is, you can't just decide one day to wake up and go for an 800-kilometer walk. There's a lot of planning and a lot of permissions, I would guess, that you need, walking through areas which wouldn't normally be allowed to walk through. What sort of planning have you put in place, and how are you going to manage the day-to-day logistics?
Great. Yeah, no, very good question, Luke. And as you say, you don't just wake up one day and chuck a backpack on and a pair of shoes and start walking through the bush, because it is, as you say, in some places permissions are needed. In others, there's every likelihood of running into some wild animal that takes exception to you being there. I'd like to start by saying that we've actually got a really, really good team of people behind this, working in different areas, including security and logistics, including pumping the word out to the rest of the world, and basically just helping as much as possible. And I'm very grateful to you, Luke, and to the ZCA, Zambezi Conservation Alliance, for being part of that support team that's helping to make it possible. Yes, permissions are needed in places. I will be walking through 1 or 2 national parks, and we'll need and are getting permissions from the national parks to do that. There's other areas where it would be silly not to walk without an armed escort, not for any reason other than there are 1 or 2 dangerous, or quite a few actually, dangerous animals around, and it would just be silly not to, from a self-defense perspective. The walk itself, if I can just say, will actually be starting on the 31st of July, following on from a conference at Kariba. And it's going to be starting on the Kariba Dam wall, and the first leg of the walk will cover Zimbabwe, and going through all the bush on the Zimbabwe side of the lake, with the second half covering Zambia. So it'll be about roughly the whole of August in Zimbabwe and the whole of September in Zambia. And our reason for doing that is because the wall itself is pretty iconic. Anyone who knows it will agree with that. And it's a great place to start and finish, because it'll help raise the awareness by being able to accommodate more people. Actually at the start and the finish. The logistics involve being able to resupply with food. There are a number of people who've expressed a desire to actually join me on the walk. One or two well-known people, sports people. There's people flying out from Dubai who are keen to join for a day or two. And I've had one or two who said they want to join for a week or so. So the logistics will involve bringing them to join the walk at wherever it is. I will be carrying a tracker, which we've very kindly been sponsored with trackers by a company in Zimbabwe called Easy Track. So people will be able to follow live, and that should show my location where I am at the time. On a slightly lighter note, for those who've made the comments, people have been saying if they see that tracker underwater and going underwater, then they'll know exactly what's happened to me. Or running faster than I can run through the bush. But jokes aside, that should make things a lot easier. And I'm also trying. So I'll stop there, Luke, because I can ramble on forever, and I'm sure you've got other questions. But that's basically it. The security and logistics are a pretty serious part of it to help make the whole thing a lot easier.
Well, Nick, it's wonderful to hear you talk about it, and I think people are very interested to understand what it takes to put something of that nature together. And I know you've got and can continue to get interest from some quite high-profile personalities. I think you've got Brendan Taylor, who up until recently was playing international cricket, who's going to be joining you for a portion of the walk. Is that how far is he going to walk with you? Do you know, or is that not decided yet?
That's not decided yet, but I'm very excited to be having him along. It's great. He's been very, very supportive of it, and he's helping us to arrange a friendly cricket match at the after the conference, just between the conference and the walk starting. So that's yet to be decided. He's very welcome to join for as long as he likes. I'd love him to be there. So and he has been extremely supportive of it. And also on that note, sorry, Luke, on that note, I'm also trying to encourage, or we as a team are trying to encourage people to do their own mini walks, school children, anyone as part of it. If I'm walking 15, 20 Ks a day, perhaps they'd like to walk 15, 20, or maybe only a couple. But the aim being to raise this awareness about the link between nature and mental health, wherever they might be, whether it's in Central Park or Hyde Park in London, or somewhere in India, or wherever, but to actually take part in it.
Excellent. Yeah, I absolutely, and I'm hoping that through the publicity that you're getting now, not obviously just being on this interview, but you're getting international newspapers and things like that. People are going to be getting more and more interest around the walk, and of course, there's still a month before you take off. On the 31st of July is day one. We're going to continue to help you build the momentum as it goes into there. And if someone said, anyone said, look, we would like to come and join you for a portion or be there for some of it, is there any criteria against people doing that, or is anybody welcome? I mean, obviously, someone coming and suddenly walking through the Sunyati Gorge with you, I mean, I guess they're going to have a level of fitness.
Yeah, they are going to have a level of fitness, but Luke, there's no restrictions at all if someone would like to come and join. Let me caveat that. If suddenly hundreds of people want to start joining, we'll have to apportion it out, because it's not good for the bush, it's not good for the environment to have 150, 200 people tramping through it. We're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 people at a time. The other thing, if people do want to come and join, is part of the part of what's going to happen during this walk is that I'm going to be hopefully having conversations not only with the local communities that we walk through as well, to find out, more about their lives living on the edge of the lake, but also with experts and other people around the world on mental health, on conservation issues, with the Zimbabwe lake being focusing more on the conservation side of things, and then the Zambian lake focusing more on the mental health side. It'll always be interlinked, but that's the sort of break that we're looking at, the breakdown of what we're looking at. So in answer to your question again, if people are looking to join, if they're more interested in the conservation side, well, then do come and join on the Zimbabwean leg of the walk. If mental health is more of interest to them, then we'll be doing that on the Zambian side, and it'd be wonderful to have people come and join. I suppose from a disclaimer point of view, anyone under a certain age would probably have to have parental consent and suitable insurance and all that sort of stuff. But I'd welcome anyone to join. And the more people who can help spread this message, the better. We need to get it out to the rest of the world.
Fantastic. And I like the fact that you said that you're engaging with the local communities as you move along the way. And I'm assuming part of the planning for the walk is already pre-warning communities, chiefs of communities in areas that you're going to be coming through.
Correct. So we are doing that, and will be doing more of it. And we're also going to rely very much on something that Zimbabwe and other parts of Africa are very famous for, which is the bush telegraph. That'll be announcing the fact that I'm a few days away. Also, I believe there's a very good radio station that covers most of the lake, Radio Nyami Nyami, I think it's called, that covers most of the lake. So yes, we did a sort of preliminary to this just before COVID, when someone actually went to the Gachi Gachi area of the lake to chat with the local community there and tell them about this. So yeah, it's very important. I mean, for two reasons. These local communities, a lot of them are very much on the breadline when it comes to earning a living. They're also on the front line when it comes to human-wildlife conflict, and quite often their livelihoods can be destroyed, including their lives, not just their livelihoods, destroyed by the wild animals. And this probably also has an impact on their approach to life and their mental health. So it's really important to be able to talk to them, to talk to the chiefs, to talk to the people, and find out just what their needs and wants are, and what they think are some of the solutions that we in the West are guilty more often than not of imposing solutions on people, rather than doing it as part of a holistic approach, where we actually take into consideration the wishes and desires of the local communities. So that's going to be a big one.
Wonderful. I'm sure it's going to be a real learning experience, finding out how those local communities are living in many ways still alongside wildlife, and finding out about those experiences. I'm sure lots and lots of stories are going to come out of this, Nick, and it's going to be fascinating for you. I think maybe we'll start winding up now, because I know we're going to engage more probably as we get closer to the walk, and then during the walk itself. But could you just speak to what your sort of ultimate goal and outcome for this, both on a personal level, and then on a public level? I know why we're doing the walk, but what would be the ultimate for you outcome from this?
That's a very good question, actually. I've never thought of what would be the ultimate outcome. We've got lots of aims and lots of desires from it. On a personal level, I would like to be able to complete the walk. There's no doubt there's an awful lot of things that might make it not possible to complete it, but I'm determined to do so. And so from my personal ambition point of view, that's what I'd like to do. The sort of ultimate outcome from this is, if we can from a conservation perspective, if we can persuade more people and more governments to open up their checkbooks for conservation in a much bigger and better way than they are doing at the moment, that would be great. I mean, conservation is far too underfunded globally, not just in the Zambezi region. And secondly, if I'm able to make a difference, I know this sounds slightly cliched, but to one person's life where they've seen this and it's helped them to go out into nature and actually help them out of their depression or whatever it might be, then that would be a very good outcome. That would be fantastic. I'd love this to become more of a global discussion. I'd love more people to become aware. And as I said earlier, you know, our aim is to build these TERA, training, education, research, rehabilitation, and awareness centers, you know, not just in Zim, but around the world. But that's an ongoing process. And, you know, we'd love to be able to raise the funding to do that. But ultimately, if this has a positive impact on one or more people's lives from a mental health perspective, then that would be, you know, job done, I think.
Yeah, wonderful. And, you know, normally I'd finish with that, Nick, but something else has popped into my mind, and it's, I think, you know, it's the ability for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And I'm by no means calling you ordinary, but at the same time, you know, you're about to embark on an 800-kilometer walk. I don't think you come from a history of being in the Olympics or, you know, I know you're fit and well, but, you know, here's something that's being done by you, who you're literally going to go and take 2-3 months out of your life to walk around this lake. I mean, what an incredible personal quest. And as you say, you know, to be able to complete the walk is the ultimate quest for you personally, and to test your body and your mind in that way. But you know, on a much wider scale, being able to impact people around the world and to focus everybody's minds onto this, I think it's absolutely wonderful. And Nick, of course, we're working close with you and going to be following you. Sorry, I know you've got one more thing to say there.
Sorry, Luke, I didn't want to interrupt, but you actually touched on something that is so important there, and that's the ordinary person, which is what I am, just an ordinary person trying to do their own bit. And, you know, we look at you look at mental health problems and you think they're just too massive to cope with. They're not, if you take them one bit at a time. You look at conservation in the world and it just seems insurmountable and there's no ways we can do anything. That's absolute rubbish. You know, each one of us can do a little bit to help. And the collective of however many billion people there are in the world now will make a massive difference. And that's the important thing to remember, is that you, I, your children, my children, anyone in the world can each do their little bit. And I know people have said that, and it does sound a bit cliched, but it is so true. You know, one person, one step, one small thing each day makes a massive difference. And when you touched on that, I just felt I had to say something because it's so true.
Nick, I wish you every single success, and we'll be following you throughout the walk and hopefully joining you for part of the walk as well. And yeah, I think it's amazing what you're doing. And I encourage everybody out there to get behind this. Do your walks from home if you can't get out and join Nick, and use the W4Life hashtag in your social media. And yeah, follow along with some of the graphics and links that we have added to this interview. And yeah, don't take your eyes off it. This is a big one. Nick, thanks very much indeed for following along with me today and giving us your time. And yeah, good luck with the preparations, and we'll talk soon, no doubt.
Luke, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for all the help that you're doing. It's very kind. It's been great doing this interview. Thank you.
Pleasure.